So hello and welcome to today's Data Explorers Market Update with me, Will Duff Gordon. So today we're talking about Italy because the thing that cheered me up when I was taking a crowded train to a wedding at the weekend was this front page of The Economist talking about a special report on Italy. Big picture of a grinning Berlusconi, the man who screwed an entire country, ? And it's a bit like having the vampire squid on Rolling Stone magazine. I'm sure it has driven their sales. It's not often that this magazine gets so jovial. But let's talk about whether investors agree that Italy is a country that is facing hard times. And before I go any further, I'm not at all anti-Italy. I love going to Italy on holiday. It's just that our data is pretty grim on Italy. But as David Cameron said, let's just not get too hung up upon GDP and economic statistics. They can be completely wrong and misleading, and maybe the Italians just aren't playing ball in this capitalistic society. So first of all, should there be two eyes in pigs, and how is Italy doing? Well, if we look at the ratio of longs to shorts in Italy on its own, we can see that just in the last couple of months or for 6 weeks, a big change whereby the ratio of shorts to longs is really increasing in the favour of more short selling. So on a sort of directional view, on a macro basis, investors are pretty pessimistic towards Italian equities. Then there's the line that comes out of the Economist report, which is Italy the Japan of Europe? Its GDP is not even growing, and out of 179 countries ranked in GDP growth, it came 167 out of 179. So if we rebase the long-short ratio of Japan versus Italy, we can see that again just recently, Italy, there's more demand to borrow Italian shares than there is Japan shares relative to the supply and rebased against Japan. So on those two macro measures, people are pretty pessimistic about Italy right now. So what's driving this? Well, it's clearly financials. If you look at the short interest in the Italian banks overall, it's 3.7% short interest against 1.5% for a basket of Western European banks, according to a Bloomberg relative value screen. So that's quite significant. The big shorts are Banca Popolare di Milano, which has got 27% of its shares short, and you've also got UBI heavily shorted, and then Banca Monte Dei Paschi is also shorted. And we've been going on about that for some time, but the share prices are falling in these banks, and the short interest shows no signs of coming down. Elsewhere, what's going? Well, interestingly, look at there's a few cars. The Fiat is in there above 6%. And I was really interested in this report that, contrary to what you might think, the UK actually makes and exports more cars than Italy does, despite Fiat, Ferrari or the same company being there. So long-only investors are selling their shares in Fiat, according to our data, and short interest is kind of trebled in January and is remaining around 6%. There are other names that you can find in the report if you look at it at dataexplorers.com/news. But I finish off with an interesting quote, again, The Economist having me laughing, by saying that in New York you can barely find a taxi driver who is from New York. In Milan you can barely find a taxi. So to some that could be a quaint statistic, and to others a very worrying economic trend. Thank you for watching, and please tune in again tomorrow.